Right, welcome back. It's now time for us to get to politics. 10 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome to the program. As we earlier talked about the issue to do with reconciliation, which is very important. We've gone through a lot of hard times in the month of May and June. As a nation, I think that was one of our moments to test our resilience and our patience and our ability to stick to the rule of law. So let's talk about that for a moment today. Let's talk about mending bridges, a time to reflect and refresh. But Dr. Busire, just before we started, said that we cannot mend bridges, and yet there are certain things still pending out there. Dr. Good morning.
Morning.
You well?
I'm good.
All right. Dr. is a lecturer of political science next door at the University of Nairobi.
I don't know why you always eliminate my other title.
Balozi.
Yes, it's permanent. It's permanent. You don't just erase it as you want or as you wish.
No, I don't wish to. I'll be charged and I'll be guilty about that. Karibu sana Balozi. And Peter Njeru. Peter Njeru is a political analyst. We've been here with him before as well. He just decided to disappear kidogo too, but he's good that he's back here. Peter, good to see you once again.
Good to see you too.
Right.
Good morning, viewers.
Karibu.
Asante.
And Wilson Sosion, not new to Jerusalem. Walimu, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
I love that phrase. Yes. Former nominated MP and NAT Secretary General, all of them are here. Let me start with you, Sosion. What's on the front page of the Daily Nation? Just to start with, just raise it up to the way we usually do it. What's on the front page of the Daily Nation? You can read it for us. Front page, Daily Nation.
I can't read this one.
Okay, all right.
I'm not qualified to read.
You're not qualified.
A nasty.
Okay,
headlines.
I will read it, or you can change the papers.
You want to read this one?
I don't read it. I should be spared to read from reading nasty headlines here. That are choreographed.
It's not a Democrat, so no. It doesn't believe in.
I'm a greater Democrat than you, by the way.
No, it doesn't believe in freedom of press.
Things I don't believe in. That is not freedom. Recklessness is not freedom.
How do you judge?
No, reckless headlines.
Reckless. How reckless? When
that are meant to incite.
But this thing is already, Victor. This bill was already
organized.
It was even in Parliament yesterday. The Parliamentary Committee yesterday met and you see now it doesn't believe in freedom of expression as well.
It's not democracy, Professor.
I've been listening to these gentlemen about the headlines in the papers. Let me wade into that conversation and mention that these headlines are someone else's opinion, probably not the opinion of the nation and not the opinion of this panel. So probably Sosion is in his right to say he's not competent to read what is written because he does not believe in it.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is fine. I'll do that honor. I'll take that neutral ground.
I can read this one.
Okay. What's on the front page of the Star?
The Star reads, State House and Bunge no-go zone in new anti-demos bill.
Now prescribed as protected areas as per
I don't see anything sinister about this.
So that is what's happening. So we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that and more. But gentlemen, let's talk about the time to mend bridges. I mean, we are here as a nation, and the month of May and June really tested our patience, really tested our tenacity and strength as a nation. And we've seen a lot of things happening across the country, several pronouncements from cabinet secretaries, discontent with, from the Wananchi, and a lot of things just flying around. But now, we still have a country to take care of, nevertheless. Sosion, since last week we met here, what have you, first question, your key highlights of the entire week until now we are here Wednesday?
I think the week rolled out very well. We saw Mohammed Amin come out to make public statements and audit the so-called baptized political violence activities of last week, and outlining further investigative measures on those who are involved in criminal activities, and we've seen those Kenyans who lost property.
Mohammed Amin is the DCI
to come out and record statements, and so that valuation is done. And I believe those who participated in criminal activities on that particular day will be made to pay and compensate for Kenyans who lost their property. I think, to me, that is key. For how long are we going to pretend as a country, in the name of democracy, in the name of freedom, which Professor is talking about here, there are limitations of rights. The moment we infringe on rights of others and we destroy the very fabric of nationhood, the economy and the promise, then we are doing things the wrong way. So I think the criminal justice systems seems to be gaining traction and will be addressing all the criminal activities of those political actions that were meant to disorganize the government and disenfranchise the country. Also, that is key at international level. The President was in Seville, Spain for the global conference, and I think his push for a review of global financing architecture took center stage, and I think it's being listened to. Give it to President William Ruto. Is very good in pushing issues at the global stage very convincingly. And yesterday was in London signing a bilateral development agreement with the UK government. And you know, Nairobi railway circuit is a key investment of the UK government. And once we have an ultra-modern communication and rail system within Nairobi, then that is going to lift Nairobi and place Nairobi city as one of the most competitive, decent cities in the world. So I think, generally speaking, the country is moving forward. The country is confident, and the road to transformation, or the transformation agenda, is taking root.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Peter, your key highlights, it's been a long one, but let's take a key highlights of what's really happened in the past 1 week, or if you can go back in your own perspective.
Yes, in my perspective, in the last 1 week, we have witnessed a number of things that suggest that the country, to some extent, there are those dissenting and those assenting. I can classify the emerging groups that are agitating for various rights and privileges.
Yes.
One as the demonstrators, who has been christened the Gen Zs. Then we have the opposition, and we have the government. We also have the church. Those four segments stands out as the four groupings currently in our socio and political arena as a country. And when we look at the specific events that we've had in the last 1 week, we would want to reflect on the demonstration that was there last week on Wednesday, 5th of June, which ended up in chaos and destruction to property. These demonstrations were under the guise of commemorating first year anniversary of last year demonstration against the Finance Bill 2024-2025. And last year we were demonstrating, the country was demonstrating against the Finance Bill. This year it was a commemoration without really any tangible reason for demonstrating. But again, the wave of destruction that we witnessed last week in that commemoration was far more worse than what we experienced last year.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a nation, this begs for each one of us to ask the critical question and reflecting on history. Because when we study history, the reason why we study history is that it is by looking at our past that we can be able to project and look forward into the future and try to understand what is likely to happen. Therefore, historically, all demonstrations that have been there in this country have ended up in death. They have ended up in property destruction. They have ended up in running battles between demonstrators and the police.
Yeah.
And nothing good can be reported as an aftermath of any demonstration. There has been destruction to property. And this therefore brings us to a line of thought that when we see any Kenyan, whoever it is, agitating for demonstrations and planning more demonstrations, what is their expected outcome when we use history to judge those plans? In my view, this country needs to have a moment of reflection, just like Honorable Raila Odinga said that a national conversation is necessary at this point in time, so that we can be able to ask ourselves the critical question, where have we come from, where are we, and where do we want our country to go? And the conducive environment for this conversation, for this national conversation to take place, is having, inculcating the culture and the faith in the rule of law, so that each and every Kenyan, whether offended or whether not offended, can be able to show absolute fidelity to the rule of law, can be able to showcase and support any law enforcement agency. That will be the beginning point of sanity. That will be the beginning point of true governance and true national development. Every time we want to do things, we think we are right, but we fight for those rights outside the law as a country. We are getting it wrong first instance. So, and this also brings us to the other line of thought concerning our church leaders. I have been seeing conferences of church leaders, press briefing, in sermons, and wherever they go, they would talk pro-demonstrations, but they forget to encourage the demonstrators. And in this case, I don't believe that demonstrators are the youth, the Gen Zs. I believe we have just coined the word Gen Z to refer to people demonstrating, not necessarily because they are Gen Zs, but because we are trying to invoke acceptance and commitment in the young people to support demonstrations. But per se, it is not just the young people who are demonstrating. So what I'm saying is that the church should be in the forefront, not only to encourage demonstrations to be allowed, but also to tell demonstrators that they have a right to demonstrate within the law. They have a duty, a civic duty, to also obey the government in power, because the Bible says there is no authority on earth that exists other than that which has been sanctioned by God himself.
Very good.
So pastors know that. It is the book of Romans, chapter 13. Anyone can go and read. They are not my words. They are sacred words in the holy book.
Let's give Daktari a minute or two to also give me or give us his reflection in the past 1 week. Daktari, we've witnessed a lot of turmoil, but that is not enough. As a country, we need to come to a point where we accept our mistakes and we say, okay, can we have some dialogue?
Thank you, Victor. I've listened keenly to what my fellow panelists have said. For me, I think we need to have a focus, and clearly focus on what is important to the nation. Not what is important or what trying to promote a particular position because it is politically expedient or it reflects our political backgrounds. I want us as Kenyans to focus on the country and the problems the country is facing. The whole week we have seen, most fundamentally, the protests that were even beyond the other week, where a young man was shot by the police. This young man was selling masks, and he lost his life yesterday or the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand if this really gets into the spine of the leadership of this country. that this young man was just standing, and we saw the video. He was not provocative. And then someone tried to say, oh, he was insulting the police. Yes, you can insult the police, but you deserve to be killed. Extrajudicial killings are becoming a serious problem in our country. The demonstration by the Gen Zs, they are Gen Zs. They are the jobless. They're the ones who are facing many, many issues in this country. Without jobs, life has become impossible. Their parents, the heavy taxation has deprived even their parents of the little money they can help them with, even food, the basic needs. These issues that are being raised, Victor, are real. These are real issues. Even the president has acknowledged there is the economic issues here that to be dealt with in our country. But how do we deal with them is the question. The clergy came out clearly and said, we cannot kill our children. Let's talk. Clergy didn't say we're encouraging demonstrations. The clergy said demonstrations are protected by the Constitution, but do not shoot to kill Kenyan youth. Over 100 are already dead. We see this as a joke. The clergy are on the right path. Any sane Kenyan could call for dialogue, for a discussion. Let us listen to our children. We have our children of that age in our homes. We don't force them to do things. We don't use the cane on them. But we speak, we talk. When we differ, we know we have agreed to go different ways. And a country cannot be built by fortifying the police, giving police more guns, now changing the law in order to give the police more power to kill. Another issue, we had goons hired, and we have seen hired goons on the streets with djembe sticks, yeah, and they clobbered people on the day Albert, they were mourning Albert on the streets through those demonstrations. Nobody has taken responsibility. There is a problem with political responsibility and accountability. Our politicians just say whatever they want to say, they do whatever they want to do without accountability. Who has been arrested over that? And I know there's a politician in Nairobi, a top politician in Nairobi, who spoke even before this happened. That let them come, we shall meet on the street. Then the wounds are there, and they clobbered people. People were killed also during that time. That's the time this young man was shot in the head. And we have seen the autopsies that were done yesterday, Victor. All the three were shot, fatally shot. It blown the young man's brains. What is the anger by the state? Why is the state so angry against its own people? Those are the issues being raised in this country of ours. There is, I think, in a sense, there is a loss of authority. You know, when you lose authority, you resort to power. If you feel that your children are not listening to you, you might pick a nyaunyo and try to correct them. But that means you have lost authority and legitimacy in your own house. So this use of force sends a signal that there is a problem with the Kenyan leadership. Not necessarily at the top, but generally. Nobody will tell the king that you're naked. Nobody will call anybody to dialogue and say, our leaders, let us come together. Instead, you can see they're posturing. They're sending goons to burn places, blame each other. I'm not saying nobody did from the other side. It's like they're competing who would outdo who with in the political landscape. Finally, I would like to say, we have seen also yesterday, because we are looking at up to today, yesterday, 42,000 students who qualified to join university say they don't want to go to university. They want to do something else.
Yeah, there was that.
Last year, about 80,000 Kenyans dropped out of university, and some did not join the same way. And this number keeps on growing. Does it not concern the leadership of this country? That the youth now even don't want to go to university? Because we have made life impossible. Even university education has become so expensive. The youth cannot pay. Parents cannot pay with the difficult economic situation in our country. These are real issues. This is our future. And we shouldn't just sweep it under the carpet. This issue should be discussed.
Okay.
And money actually allocated, more money allocated to education. They were saying, oh, we allocate more money to education. Universities are still reeling. I will tell you that universities have not paid salaries, and perhaps they're not going to pay salaries soon. So what does that portend to a country that is as young as ours? 70% of our population in Africa, over 70%, are youth. We must invest in education, and good education for that matter.
Okay. That was, I did not interrupt any of you because I wanted to give you the foundation to start the discussion. It's 7:30. And there's one thing I want us to do. Mwalimu Sosyan, are you happy? I want to give you coffee.
It depends.
No, I want to give you coffee. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. I can see the energy levels now try to... Yes, we woke up at 3 a.m., all of us. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Kwa nini familia inapewa uzito mkubwa katika Uislamu? Katika mafundisho ya Kiislamu, familia ni zawadi kutoka kwa Mwenyezi Mungu,
akitueleza kuhusiana na umuhimu wa kuhifadhiana siri.
Ima yamefanyika mchana au usiku, yaliyozungumzwa mchana au usiku, lakini yakawa yamekusudiwa kuwa ni siri. Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala aweze kwenda kutuhifadhia mambo yetu na kwenda kuyanyoosha katika maisha yetu inshallah.
Zinaiga mfano wake.
Ruka basi.
Nipe mabao.
Nani?
Za kuniambia kutoka jana asubuhi mpaka saa hizi tumetumia shilingi 1800.
Ukisikia wale wana magumu wa kwanza ni wewe.
Hapana. Sasa 1800 nitoe wapi? Mimi mwenyewe sijimudu. Ndio mwingine nituwekelee mzigo.
Habari ya kunaambia ati sijui wapata mshahara, sijui walimu, sijui una kazi kubwa, uwe na kazi ndogo, sio shida yangu.
Angalia chini. Ngoja, sio unajifanya mjanja sana.
Nikiletea nini? Akikuletea shida saa nyingine kararua.
Utakaumiza bure aka.
Wewe naye unaona kuna kizaazaa hapa oza mtoto.
Kumbe ni wewe ndio mwenye kumshauri mambo ya harusi ya?
Down to measurement and vibration. Somebody will be crucified.
You're talking to an expert.
Somebody will
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Oh.
I wish you could see the joy on Sosyan's face now that there is enough coffee. All right. Welcome back, gentlemen. So let's talk about this. We are mending bridges because I know the energy levels was going down. I've taken the lead, literally. So let's talk about the aspect of the national ethos, gentlemen, because let me start with you, Sosyan, because now the situation is for all of us. It doesn't matter who is right and who is wrong. when a mistake has happened, there must be some middle ground for sense to reign and take effect. When you say the police, the Gen Z, the national government, etc., all of us will be throwing jabs and blame games. But are we taking some steps back and realizing where the mistake is? Whether from the national government, whether it's from the police, from Wanjiko, who is bringing that sense to the national limelight?
We cannot have a country that is disintegrating under lawlessness, and of course we're kind of drifting into a laissez-faire system where people do what they wish without caring, and without bothering how they affect others. You must bother about how you affect your neighbor, how you affect your brother with your own actions. We must now live as human beings. We cannot hide under instruments that we created as a country, the constitution, and laws and the rest, to do wrong things. We cannot push the blame to certain quarters, like we are blaming the police, we are blaming this and that. I think it is time we begin reasoning as a country. There are great values of this republic. The founding fathers gave us, and they say, nchi ya Kenya iwe na amani, nchi ya Kenya iwe na umoja, nchi ya Kenya iwe na mapenzi. Under uhuru, ile tulikuwa tunapata. Uhuru haikuwa ya kuchezea. Freedom was not to be misused. Freedom was supposed to give us fountains of love in this country. Great unity and peace. Those are values. And it is the responsibility of every Kenyan to espouse those values in all what we do, in all what we are engaged.
Okay, I'll sort out
and so
your mic. Allow me just to somebody's going to sort it out. Sorry, I'll come back to you. Just hold it that. Peter, probably you can just pick from where he's left.
Yeah, so I want to confirm that at present, for our country to come back to its senses, so to speak, we have to do a national reset. And a national reset would revolve around accepting to be governed and to be led by the rule of law as individuals and as a nation. So that before I go out to demonstrate, I will go out to demonstrate within the confines of the law. Before I start saying 1, 2, 3 concerning my neighbor, my brother, I will do that within the confines of law. Understanding that where my rights ends is where the right of my neighbor starts.
Yes.
That to me is foundational. The other thing I would also want to reflect on as we look at the aspect of reset, so that the nation can have a progressive conversation around the things affecting us as a country, is that we need also to agree and to accept that any wrong done anywhere or to any group is a wrong done everywhere and to all groups. Such that when a policeman shoots to kill a citizen, it is illegal, it is wrong, it deserves to be punished within the law. At the same time, when a demonstrator croppers a such an officer during his in conduct of his official duty, that must be condemned with the strongest terms possible. When a leader stands out in public and says that police should shoot to kill, that again needs to be condemned, and that therefore needs to be accepted as an illegal order. So what I'm saying is that at the current dispensation and where we are as a country, we have sunk so deep, and each one of us, whether in leadership or being led, have a responsibility and a duty to accept that a national reset is necessary. And this reset, the beginning point is to accept to be governed by the roles that are there to lead us. Let's have proper reference to the statutes that we have so that the country can start knowing peace.
Okay.
In that environment of the rule of law, then it is possible to have a conversation around our steps in the days to come.
Okay. I'll give Sosion 1 minute, just for you not to forget the point you're making. Then I come back to Ambassador Dr.
You know, you touched on key thing, national values.
And ethos, yes.
Of the country and ethos, which of course is anchored on patriotism for our country. And I touched on the key clarion goals at independence. So we should not be talking about still fighting for freedom. We got freedom.
Yes.
We have it. We can only do much with it. And the values of love, peace, and unity, it did not start the other day. I think sometimes we lose track. And even when we look at education, the national goals of education is at least national unity. It's very clear about it. So are we witnessing breakdown of values and value systems that slowly and slowly we are turning into animals and beasts who cannot reason over issues? And these issues are well seized within the hands of government. If you look at the president's key 5 pillars, it speaks to the social and economic issues that are afflicting the country. And therefore, it invites the entire country to apply their minds and engage in constructive conversations to alleviate the socio-economic challenges facing this country, like youth unemployment. Yeah, it's a key thing. The president is working very hard in that front, extremely hard in that front. Those who don't want to see are those who are interested in calculating to take over power in 2027. There is one thing that we have to be very clear here. We speak about democracy, we speak about human rights, we speak about freedom when you are looking for power. And I think that is the wrong corridor to use. Those who want to advance their politics, let them do politics decently. And after all, that right is granted under Article 38. Every Kenyan is free to exercise political rights, but not to the extent of using vulnerable groups like the youth, misusing institutions. Let our institutions work. Condemning the police. I think as a worker leader, I also look at the police as workers who do a difficult job. And Dr. Bosire here should be able to write a thesis of what happens if we remove police from operation only for 15 minutes in Kenya.
I finished school.
Only 15 minutes in Kenya. But you can supervise a thesis in that area. Why can't you supervise? That is when we will know the value of the police. Our police value and they matter. Let us help the police to be sophisticated, to be modernized, and to be a true service. Let us not demonize the police, while at the same time, let's follow the law. Let's follow the law. And I was seeing a clip the other day over the California demonstrations, or was it Los Angeles? And I think the police sheriff there was giving guidelines that if you run away, there is a way they will handle you. If you attack the police, then your relatives should prepare to meet you at the cemetery, because you can't do that. It's against the law. So attacking, imagine invading a police station. As far as I know, walking even to a police station and touching a pen is prohibited. You can't do that. It's a protected security area. Can you imagine beating up a police officer? And when you talk about goons, it's an indicator of lawlessness. I've been in Nairobi City, and I know militia groups and these goons, they have existed for long. And they operate a part of the operations and activities within Nairobi. And that is why we have to be very clear about demonstration. Who is demonstrating? I am the professor of demonstration in the Republic of Kenya. None has led demonstration for many days like I have done. And you know, you have to organize your people, those who are demonstrating, so that they're not infiltrated by non-demonstrators. And you are able to organize your message and deliver your message. I could lead demonstrations from NAT headquarters of thousands of teachers. Present memoranda at Jogo, present memoranda at the office of the Prime Minister, present memoranda at Parliament, and come back peacefully. And I would superintend such activities all over the country.
That is a structured,
and they were not
union,
infiltrated.
That is a structured union.
And of course, they were not infiltrated. And that is how all demonstrations as envisaged in Article 37.
Allow me to ask this, for the sake of Mwananchi, who is the beneficiary of maandamano or protests, under Article 37. But then now, that's a structured union. You have a memorandum and you know how you're going to do it.
Article 37 envisages structured demonstration.
Thank you. So who's going to give a structured demonstrations countrywide? Who is the leader? I mean,
you can't have demonstrations without
from
a leader. And that is why now there's and I agree very strongly, it was wrong to put a very serious clause in Article 37 without drafting a bill to implement it. We need a bill to guide that process, so that we have orderly demonstrations.
Very well.
And we can see the youth protected in their own demonstrations.
I'll come back to that because it's on the papers. The same was started by former Mending North MP, Godfrey Ruku.
Yes.
Again, now it's also back.
It is back, and it will have to be there.
Very well.
And not only demonstrations, even public participation. There must be a public participation act to guide on how the public participation is done. There must be a referendum act to guide on how referendum is done.
Yes.
So those are lacunas in our constitution.
Now, thank you, Victor. Maybe I could start from the demonstrations. I think there is a problem, with the state that thinks that demonstrations should not be legalized. Or they're not legal, because we have a constitution. Sociona has spoken very well. We did a demonstration last year in November in town, and this was WASU. And we marched peacefully. And when WASU is marching, it's organized very well. The routes are properly spelled in our notice to the police. And the police came to the grounds at the University of Nairobi to stop us from getting out. Reason, we did not understand, therefore we did not obey, so we went to town. And in town we were going to Parliament, as he has stated, Treasury and Education. Those are the main places, and we had given a notice. But then they confront us in town with tear gas, and we were not infiltrated. Nobody destroyed anybody's property. But we were dispersed, others, about 20 of us were arrested, no charges were preferred on us. We were released in the evening and went home. Now, that is the nature of state we're dealing with. It doesn't matter whether they say law, because we have a constitution. But the government does not seem to obey the constitution. And one of the values is the rule of law. One of the values, national values, is the rule of law. Is human dignity, is human rights, is democracy, it's equity, it is social justice. All these besides patriotism, unity, national cohesion, and all these other issues. How can we coexist as a people in one country when these injustices are always perpetrated and the beneficiaries are the politicians using the state to protect their political interests? And this is very clear. I don't think anybody will contradict what I'm saying. And that is where the problem lies. Why should we weaken institutions of governance in the country? Then we see the consequences are that there is a breakdown. The state is collapsing slowly because we have weakened institutions. one of the issues that has been mentioned by my brother here is someone, a CS, of course, Murkomen, giving instructions to the police at a police station. Is he now operating an operational guy? Yeah? The IG is independent, is the one to control the police service. We saw the IG has a meeting and speaks exactly as the politician, the same language as the politicians. Who is going now to trust? The problem is, who is going to trust these institutions that have been weakened and actually that seems to have been captured by the state? Political leaders, the political executive of this country. And now, nobody looks at the issues, Victor, the issues that are actually facing this country. We have talked about the cost of living being high, unemployment, corruption, nepotism, and cronyism. Because there are some people here who think they are above the law. We have seen the insults that are being spewed out by politicians and people who are close to the powers that be in this country, calling people names and what we cannot mention. I cannot speak those words here. And we have seen it all. But where are they driving the country? They are the ones who are driving the country into lawlessness. The young people are watching and seeing how they are swimming in opulence. The same people who are condemning, who are giving instructions to Takutana. So, let me say, for example, we cannot sweep this under the carpet. Someone, an MP in Rift Valley, said the other day, he's going to send goons to the streets of Eldoret and parts of Kenya and prepare for it before now the Gen Z memorial. And it was a memorial. These children were going out to mourn about 70 of them who were killed last year, in June last year. And he actually sent the wounds to Eldoret. They were seen.
Okay.
Some of them were arrested. But this is the country we are talking about. This is the country we are talking about. And finally, please. The president said on national television that he is going to protect the police. You know, my worry is, as a Kenyan citizen, the police are supposed to protect Kenyans, and the president swore to protect Kenyans with their property. How does he now turn the equation that is going to protect the police? Rather than protecting Kenyan citizens, the police becomes an institution or a tool to be able to do this. So in other words, protect the police against who? Against the citizens? Then we shall have lost it. The best we can do is to reform the police, equip the police, even with these values, teach them properly, train them properly, to understand how to deal with the people, the crowd. The Los Angeles don't use guns merely to shoot. If they want even to arrest somebody, they shoot on the leg. They tase him. They use tasers. We can acquire tasers. You tase somebody, anaanguka, unashika, unaweka pingu, unaweka kwa gari, unapeleka.
Gentlemen, let's talk about, because when you want to break down the aspect of national cohesion and, you know, the national ethos, we have it. But the aspect of civic education and awareness on the side of Wanjiku, you know, police officers are trained on how to deal with riots, all right? That is their profession, you know, 9 months, 1 year in police college and all that. But who is giving this awareness to Wanjiku and the civic education? Because when they are left to do anything, you know, at whim, then we will always end up with the situation we have been last year, last week, last month, and all that. More deaths will always occur because police officers are trained to deal with riot situations.
Let me comment quickly. Police live with us. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. We build even police stations at home, and, you know, we contribute and make sure the police live well with us. And we know their role. I don't think Wanjiku does not know the role of the police. They know the role of the police.
There should be more. There should be more.
The problem for me,
civic education out there.
The problem, Victor, I agree with you, maybe there is need for civic education. But these police are not from outside. They are not like the military from the barracks. We live with them in our communities. We always go to the police station when we have issues.
My question is, Doc.
And we are not fighting. The public is not fighting with the police.
Who is out there to highlight to Wanjiku on the limits? We have to condemn attack on police station.
True.
That one we have to condemn. So who
it is illegal. There? It's a crime.
Right?
It's a crime.
It's a crime.
Yeah, it's
so
a crime.
Who is there to tell Wanjiku? You know, it's a criminal offense, even to be caught with just one bullet.
Victor, I would just like to say
offense,
for a moment,
you can go to jail.
Just a point that
right?
the problem for me is not even civic education with the public on the role of the police. For me, the problem is those who control the police.
Okay.
That is where the problem lies. Why should police kill? It's abhorrent, and I condemn the strongest terms those who attack the police. Police are there to help the public, to maintain public order, but there are those who have failed to ensure accountability on some rogue police officers who are perhaps protecting certain interests that come out and shoot on the head.
Yeah.
For me, that is not a public issue. It is an issue of the police, policing.
Thank you. Peter.
Let me say that every marketer has a madman. And therefore, when one police officer does something unexpected, something weird, we cannot again come here and condemn wholesale the entire police service in the whole country. There are isolated cases of police officers going overboard. And these extrajudicial killing and all that, those specific officers should be held accountable for their actions. Majority of the police officers, as the professor has observed, is that they are professional. We support them. We have built, the community has built police stations, and they have worked to a large extent in support of their work, because it's a benefit that we draw from their services. They spend long hours in the night while we sleep to make sure our sleep is sound. And therefore, every peace-loving Kenyan should be able to appreciate and thank the police for who they are. But of course, just like we have some citizens who are going overboard and assaulting and burning police stations and stealing firearms, those are mad people, and they are increasing by the day. And therefore, this panel this morning, I see we have a point of convergence, that the rule of law is a point of reset that we should all encourage, so that the general public agrees that even when they are agitated, they need to express their views within the confines of the law. The confines of the law does not include barricading roads, does not include assaulting police officers and burning police stations. The rule of law does not include insulting our leaders. The rule of law says that, yes, we have this issue that needs address. We will make our statement when time for that comes. For example, if we are not happy with the current administration, it's easy, it's free, that in 2027, there will be a general election. Yeah. Let's avail ourselves there, armed with our ID card and voters card, and we express our anger there at the ballot box. And we say that, yes, this government has done what we wanted. We'll give them a second term. No, this government has not done what we wanted, and we will not renew their term. And therefore, it is pointless to keep talking about demonstration and human rights and all that while we are doing that outside the law. And therefore, the point of reset to this nation currently as we speak is accepting that, yes, there are grievances, 100% there are grievances. How do we express our views? How do we put across those grievances? Banning, vandalizing businesses for our fellow Kenyans is not one of the ways. Breaking doors. For example, when we went to demonstrate outside the Stanley Hotel, my heart bleeded because this hotel has tourists. These tourists in their rooms, they are inhaling tear gas. My suspicion is that the following day they checked out. Immediately they got safe. They checked out and vanished to other hotels. These people might never come to tour Kenya again. And therefore, we're looking at a future where our hotels will close. We have Intercontinental Hotel next door. It is closed. We have Hilton Hotel. It's closed. The Stanley, I'm sure it is now suffering low occupancy. Our Gen Zs, our youth, our fathers, our parents are employees there. What do we expect? We are crying about joblessness. It is important for us to understand that it is not the business of government to employ.
Thank you.
The government cannot employ every single Kenyan who is competent to do a certain job. But the government can create a conducive environment for investment. so that investors and investors can come, employers can expand their business and hire more people. So it is a fallacy for us to destroy the economy and again cry that we are losing our jobs.
Thank you. Director is generous enough. Thank you, that Peter. Thank you, that's quite profound. Director is quite generous to us. It's 8 a.m., but he's given us 3 more minutes. Sosion, you know how we do it. That is your camera. 1 minute. I know you're a gentleman. How to make Kenya great.
And I think we should get out of these shenanigans of arguments and
all right,
lawlessness.
Your 1 minute begins right now. So address that in 1 minute, then Peter 1 minute, Daktari.
Get out of the shenanigans of dirty politics and wrong engagements with intent of getting power in 2027 and accept to be an orderly country of peace, love, unity, and with strong values, and focus on the leadership. Every country has a leader, and the leader for Kenya at the moment is President William Ruto. He has an agenda with clear pillars that is meant to resolve serious socio-economic challenges, including youth unemployment. And therefore, it is reasonable for all Kenyans to support the transformational agenda that transcends agriculture, MSME, ICT, infrastructure, housing, which is a major revolution, UHC, among many others. Let's do this for the 5-year period and then evaluate the delivery of the president's agenda in 5 years. And if you have a contrary opinion, you have the power of the ballot. But you don't have the power to destroy the country now. You don't have the power to engage in lawlessness. We don't have the power to pretend to be engaging in demonstrations, but then we are engaged in political violence and destruction. That is wrong. I think it is now a moment for us to choose common sense as a country and accept that we are a country with leadership, and we must accept to be led by those who are leading us. And we must allow the institutions that have been created by the Constitution to operate.
Thank you very much. Well put. Peter.
My 1 minute begins now.
Your 1 minute begins now. How to make Kenya great. Camera 2, go.
Last week on Thursday, my neighbor, who is a senior police officer in this country, visited my place. I have a young son, 22 years now, third year at Chuka University, and he asked him, Alan, did you go for demonstrations? He said, no. And then he asked, why didn't you go? He said, you cannot lead by following blindly. And to me, when I heard that response, I realized it was so deep. And it's the same advice I would give to every demonstrator, that you cannot be a leader if you are following blindly. I hope we've each taken our point. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Daktari, how to make Kenya great? Where is his camera, Daktari? Okay, camera 1. Yes. Straight to the camera.
I think the best is for all of us as Kenyan citizens to think about country first, and then us and our friends and politicians second. We must rethink about the future of our country, and mainly the future of our youth, who are the majority in our country and across Africa. We must empower them, and significantly empower them, to be able to vent for themselves and take the leadership of this country and take our country forward. The state must restrain itself from using excessive force on demonstrators, people who are expressing themselves. The state has to end corruption, and all of us must be together to end corruption. Because as we speak, there is an extractive attitude within the state. The government can only be efficient if institutions are strengthened and given authority to make decisions and implement those decisions that will be life-changing for our people in this country. If we have to do it at the ballot, that is still within the constitutional provisions of this country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's do our self-assessment. Can we assess Sosion's submission? The two of you. I think his point was rule of law, rule of the power of the ballot, 2027, and just letting the current regime to work, which I think is quite fundamental. Let's chime into his point.
Yeah, I would say that in a democracy, it is the people who make those fundamental decisions to change the government. In fact, the current government was brought in through an election, and it can also be removed through an election. And nobody pretends that there is extra legal means of changing government, because those are political rhetorics. And when people demonstrate, they are not demonstrating that it's not treasonable to demonstrate. And finally, there is this issue of 100 meters, which we didn't talk about. 100 meters from Parliament. Where is 100 meters from Parliament? Itakuwa wapi? Moi Avenue. You know that Parliament is a house of the people. That is a symbolism of the rule by the people. Because it's Parliament where these discussions, our representative seat on our behalf. And they want to barricade it. They want to have a law that says that I can demonstrate at the University of Nairobi if it's 100 meters to get to Parliament to give them my petition or our petitions. I think we should rethink. Democracy is both responsibility. We have a responsibility to protect our democracy. We have a history. In the 1990s.
I think, Prof, while I even agree with you about the distance, that is it's just a mere proposal. But I think there is clear, loud thinking that the demonstration areas should be designated, which is the truth. If you go to Washington, the White House, there is a corner and a fence that is designated for demonstrations, and those demonstrations are conducted on a daily basis, and they're allowed and they're permissible on the fence of the White House. And so this proposal of how somebody may have said 100 meters away, but of course that is a proposal. I think the whole of this legislation will go through process of public participation. So Parliament should designate a specific point at the entrance where the public can deposit their petitions. And it's legislated that when petitioners visit Parliament, they must be received by officers of Parliament, including clerks.
Thank you very much.
That's how we need to strengthen legislation.
Allow me to have that newspaper.
Where I go to receive
let me have that newspaper. Let's take a look at what we have on the front pages. Very good. Before we go home, on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto's draconian bill on protest. Actually, that's what we've been discussing here. Stung by a wave of youth-led anti-government protests, President William Ruto's administration has lined up a new bill that seeks to demarcate areas for holding demos while also stipulating fines and jail terms for anyone found in non-designated locations such as Parliament, police stations, courts, and other protected areas. I think, and again, there's that story which I think because we have run out of time. No, thank you. Over 42,000 students shun university placement. This is which was given out yesterday by CS Ogamba yesterday. A worrying trend, gentlemen. But I think this is going to give more powers to TVETs, which I think the government is also pushing.
Yeah, so that they can go out to Saudi Arabia to do those things that they want to do. We can't provide decent jobs.
What's on the front page of the Star? Dr. Balozi? Star?
Yeah, Star. We said State House and Bunge, no-go zone in new anti-demos bill.
Thank you. Down there, I think that's the president during his tour.
Yeah, the president in Europe with the UK, is strengthening Kenya-UK trade ties.
Very good. Yeah. That's on the front page. And Peter, the Standard?
The blood money.
Okay.
Whatever this is all about, the headline seems to have been coined by a person from hell.
No.
What?
Let me read it. Let me just read it.
As you read, there is much more on this.
Allow me just to handle it.
There is
very
also
pessimistic, very pessimistic, very negative. It just tells us that we are living in hell, which is wrong.
That's what's on the front page of the Standard.
It's wrong. It's wrong message.
It's all because of what is happening in the country, and it's now become routine, almost a ritual. The state pulls the trigger, then it shows up with the flowers at a fact check. I mean, basically, take a look. Just go and buy your local newspaper at your local vendor and read for yourself. I wish I had more time. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We need to wrap it up there. It has been a very good conversation. National ethos and reconciliation, where we need to find our footing as a nation moving forward. Wilson Sosion, former NAT Secgen, and former nominated member of parliament, as well as former CE. Yes.
Secretary General.
Chief Administrative Secretary.
Chief Administrative,
of Tourism and
so many
Wildlife.
formers. Peter Jero is a political analyst. And Dr. Ambassador, Dr. Bosire.
Honestly, Victor.
Yes.
When there is donation to support funeral for people that have passed on, it paints the wrong picture to the mourning family to say that the donation is blood money. It paints the wrong picture.
Those are language of pessimists.
No, you kill, and you go money.
Tulikuwa tunamaliza. Dr. Bosire is a lecturer of political science.
Ambassador Dr. Richard Bosire.
Thank you. Ambassador Dr. Richard Bosire.
Yes.
Neighbor next door. Gentlemen, situmalize maneno.
Thank
I need to add you more tea. Off air. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Lo. Bye-bye. Hard hit.